Why choose a Sleep Number smart bed?
Can I make my site softer?
Can I make my site firmer?
Can we sleep cooler?
Sleep Number does that. Cools up to 8 times faster and lets you choose your ideal comfort on either side. Your Sleep Number setting. It's the Sleep Number biggest sale of the year. All beds on sale up to 50% off the limited edition smart bed. Plus free premium delivery with any smart bed and adjustable base. Ends Labor Day. All Sleep Number smart beds offer temperature solutions for your best sleep. Check it out at a Sleep Number store or sleepnumber.com today.
Now, The Hunt Palmer Show.
This is a catastrophe.
You are now listening to The Hunt Palmer Show. Brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
That's what I wished for when I blew out my candle.
Locking down the middle of the day, live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studios. This is Hunt Palmer.
The floor is yours.
Welcome in. Hunt Palmer coming to you from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio downtown in the capital city on this Wednesday. About half the work week in the rearview mirror. Brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools. Got Jacob Beck and Cassie Spazzali back there on the ones and twos. Lots and lots to do over the course of the next couple of hours. We'll have What If Wednesday. JD PicKell of On 3 Sports talking national college football. A lot of games to go through with JD. We'll do that coming up in 30 minutes. What veteran quarterbacks might the Saints be looking at in free agency now that cuts have been made? We'll talk about that a little bit later. My first shot at SEC football power rankings as we get ready for week one, coming up at the bottom of hour number 2. Generally speaking, we crank things up with something of a monologue. Not today. We got our Genesis opening drive. Let's do it with Cole Bryson from the Fan upstate in Greenville.
It's time for Hunt's opening drive, presented by Genesis of Baton Rouge.
Off and running, LSU and Clemson, 6:30 Central Time start from South Carolina. Cole Bryson is there, joins us now on the Jim's Firearms Hotline. Cole, we appreciate some time. How are you?
Doing fantastic, guys. Glad to join you.
Give me the temperature, not literally, figuratively, in and around Clemson right now as they get ready for a big opener.
You know, it's a good question. I think normally you got to know how Clemson media, especially the Clemson beat writers, operate. Normally the temperature's always like high in terms of, you know, I guess we're talking high temperature means high expectations, good juju, good vibes. If you ever talk to Clemson media, man, on the beat, the temperature's always high. There's always a good feeling. It's kind of just, it starts at the top with Dabo. Very rarely will you ever talk to somebody on the Clemson beat. Now, I'm not on the Clemson beat like some of these guys are every single day in the press conferences, obviously with me hosting an afternoon show, but very rarely will you find an opinion as to where Clemson isn't highly regarded in their matchup. Some may call it cockiness, some may call it confidence, but to answer your question, man, it seems like everybody you talk to in our neck of the woods here in South Carolina are super high on this matchup. I've even seen a few predictions where pundits locally have predicted not only a win for Clemson, but a big win. So to answer your question, man, the temperature is pretty high right now on the Clemson Tigers.
Let's talk about Cade Klubnik. I kind of went back over his career, reading, watching highlights, games, and I see a guy who was a very highly touted recruit. I see a guy whose team started 2-4 in league play, and I see a guy who did not play great with not a lot of help against Georgia last year, but after that, it looked great. Give me the timeline on Cade Klubnik as he enters what looks to be his final year as the quarterback at Clemson.
You know, it's really interesting with Cade because if you listen to Cade at ACC kickoff, if you listen to him a couple of days ago, maybe a week or so ago on ACC Network, Cade Klubnik has a chip on his shoulder because of his past at Clemson. You talk about 3 years ago. 2 seasons ago, Cade Klubnik met with Dabo Swinney in his office after the season and really wasn't sure what the future looked like in terms of him being QB1 at Clemson. Dabo Swinney believed in him. Dabo Swinney gave him a pep talk, and he also told him in that meeting that Cade Klubnik talks about a lot about 2 years ago, again before the 2024 season kicked off. Cade Klubnik will be very quick to tell you that Dabo Swinney challenged him in that office meeting that day between Dabo and Cade Klubnik. So to kind of answer your question, Hunt, Cade Klubnik has been a work in progress. What you saw in 2023 from Cade Klubnik is not even remotely close to what you saw in 2024. And Clemson pundits, Clemson fans will tell you that hopefully what you saw in 2023 isn't remotely close to what you'll see in 2025. Now, we all know Cade Klubnik has some big shoes to fill at Clemson, right? With Deshaun Watson, with Trevor Lawrence. Cade Klubnik's very close with Taj Boyd, former Clemson quarterback, who has a little history with LSU, years and years ago in Atlanta, Georgia. Cade Klubnik even talked about today during his media session just how close he was with former Clemson quarterback Taj Boyd, who's now on staff at Clemson, by the way. So to kind of put it all back into perspective here, Cade Klubnik has been a work in progress, but at no point, Hunt, in Cade Klubnik's career has anyone, even Clemson fans, ever just given up on him. There's always been those bright spots. However, on the flip side of that, Hunt, there's also been some tough spots, like the 2024, last year, the game, the regular season finale against South Carolina, a home game for Clemson. Clemson's the better team. We all know what happened at the end of the game with Lenora Sellers making a Superman-type play to win the game when there was orange completely surrounding him. But Cade Klubnik had a very costly interception at the end of that game against South Carolina a season ago. And you also look at the Louisville game that they lost in 2024. Even though no one has given up hope on Cade Klubnik, Hunt, there have been times you look at this guy, especially in that South Carolina game, because that is a sick feeling Clemson fans had. There have been times you look at Cade and just think to yourself, what in the world is this guy doing? So Clemson fans will tell you, hopefully there's just not near as many opportunities for that in 2025. However, going up against LSU in the season opener, man, he's going to have to be near perfect in my mind.
I don't have any questions about the Clemson wide receivers. Those three guys are stars. I do have a question about the Clemson running game. Like, what's your confidence level in this Clemson running game with an unproven back?
You know what? We have spent a lot of time, man, talking about this contest, this matchup happening Saturday night. And while, going back to your very first question, while the temperature's high, while the feelings are good, the vibes and the juju, everything's good, the number one concern amongst most Clemson media, those in the upstate where we are, those Clemson fans around the Southeast, the number one concern is that running back room that you just brought up. You have lost, over the past few years, number one guys. Going into this season in 2025, you just don't know if you have a number one guy. Adam Randall is a converted wide receiver. Listen, a dynamic runner of the football, there's no doubt. He's drawn comparisons to Cordell Patterson in which the way he runs after, he possesses the football. He is a very good runner after he possesses the football. He was a good receiver for Clemson. You saw toward the tail end of last year in that postseason, Dabo Swinney moved Adam Randall to running back. So there's a lot of question marks there, especially with Adam Randall. If he can be the workhorse per se at RB1, and then you also have Gideon Davidson, a freshman phenom from a place that's really not well known in the likes of the Southeast. When you talk about what Gideon Davidson was able to do at the high school level, Max Prepp's National Junior of the Year, Virginia Gatorade Player of the Year. He had jaw-dropping high school production. So there's a lot of hype around Gideon Davidson. But even with that hype, even with some maybe promise about Adam Randall, there are still unknowns. Now, if you ask Dabo Swinney will tell you he has said on record just months ago that he believes that Adam Randall will be the best story in college football in 2025. Dabo Swinney has always been loyal, always been confident in his guys, and Dabo Swinney's been on record talking about that multiple times. So C.J. Spiller, the running backs coach, they have a lot of confidence in what the former wide receiver Adam Randall can do at running back. But to go into the season not having that number one guy, it's definitely a concern.
On the defensive side, I'm curious how a defensive front that's got Peter Woods, that's got T.J. Parker, that's got the talent and production really that Clemson had at linebacker, struggles so badly against the run like they did last year. How do you quantify that?
It's interesting because you mentioned some names right there, right, that are really good pieces on that defensive line for Clemson. The interior is important, right? We talk about it at all levels, college, high school, college, and pro. The interior is very important. I think to answer your question, there are multiple levels, multiple aspects of what Clemson will do on the defensive front. We know how good we know how good Peter Woods is. You mentioned Peter Woods. We know what they have up front defensively and what they can do and how they can affect the quarterback with T.J. Parker, right? Another standout. 11 sacks a season ago, 8.5 tackles for loss. Those two, there's no question about. I do think, Hunt, there was a lot of question, a lot of concern with the personnel decisions involving rotations. I'm sure you've heard about it, with the linebacker core in terms of what the old defensive coordinator was not able to do with this Clemson defensive unit. I would say that was probably the biggest conversation in the offseason, especially with Tom Allen coming in from Penn State, new defensive coordinator for Clemson. When you have to make a change and get rid of Wes Goodwin, Dabo Swinney made a change, but also a big, bold change by bringing Tom Allen in, right? A lot of people look at that as a lateral move when it happened in the offseason. So to kind of answer your question, I don't think the personnel was an issue a season ago. I think that Dabo Swinney and his staff looked at the pieces they had and said, man, we're not getting enough juice out of this fruit, right? We're squeezing, but we're not quite getting what we're looking for when it comes to production, linebackers, secondary as well. There were a lot of concerns, and I know Dabo Swinney hadn't made them all public, but when you make a change like Dabo Swinney did, getting rid of Wes Goodwin and bringing in Tom Allen, that just goes to show that there were issues. For as many people out there, talk about Wes Goodwin, like a Brent Venables, and how highly regarded he is in the defensive world in college football, the bottom line is they didn't get it done. That interior of the defensive line you talked about a season ago, they didn't get it done. So I think it's now up to Tom Allen to have these guys ready in 2025.
Cole Bryson's our guest. He's with the Fan upstate there in South Carolina. A couple more here. I'm curious about special teams. What can you tell us about Clemson in the kicking game?
I think that's a wild card. Jack Smith is the only scholarship punter, and he has 5 career punts heading into Saturday's game. We know what Nolan Hooser is. He was really good in 2024, especially in that ACC championship game, right, in that walk-off win, per se, against SMU. He was 18 of 24 in 2024, FWAA Freshman Special Teams Player of the Year. He was on all kind of, preseason watch lists. So in the kicking game, I believe Nolan's going to be a solid piece, and there's not going to be a ton of concern. But since you brought up special teams, it's important to note that Dabo Swinney was asked about punter. And I know punter is not the position that we're all concerned about heading into the LSU game. But when Dabo Swinney, just a couple of weeks ago on the record, admits that maybe he didn't do enough in the transfer portal to address the punter need, he said to Chapel Fowler, the state newspaper, when the question was asked, he said, look, if we drop the ball there this season and we can't produce at the punter position, again, everybody's number one concern heading into the season, he said, I'll take full responsibility. He said something to the effect, Hunt, of, I'm going to have to pray that the name that I pull out of the hat, God will just allow them to be a punter for us this year that can actually be productive. Because no disrespect to the guys on the roster, it doesn't seem like Dabo Swinney has a lot of confidence, a lot of faith right now. A faith-based guy in Dabo Swinney, right? It doesn't seem like he has a lot of faith right now in the punting unit for Clemson. Again, I think Nolan Hooser will do a fine job at kicker, at place kicker as well with field goals. He was really good a season ago, but there's definitely concern. I know that's not something that's at top of mind for all the Clemson and LSU fans going into Saturday's game, but it is an area to watch.
No question about it. Kicking game's a big deal, especially in very close games. Cole, how do you think it goes on Saturday night there at Clemson?
You know what, man? I'm going back and forth. I can see a path. I can see a scenario in which both teams win. I really could. I could see LSU winning. I could see Clemson winning. Ultimately, I feel like Clemson's defensive line, going back to the conversation you and I just had a few minutes ago, I feel like Clemson's defensive line will be the X factor. And I think Clemson's defensive line, with that veteran experience, especially at the pass rush position, will be able to make enough plays down the stretch in Saturday night's game, put a little bit of pressure on Garrett Nussmeier just to make him uncomfortable enough, right? Sometimes all of those plays don't show up in the stat sheet, but those two guys on the edge could make life tough for Garrett Nussmeier. And then on the flip side, offensively, I think Cade Klubnik's going to be okay. I think he will be good enough through the air to get the win for Clemson. But I will say, I think the X factor for Clemson offensively is how Cade Klubnik uses his legs. Cade Klubnik is not known across the country as a dual threat guy, right? He's an in-pocket passer. But if you look back a season ago, there were some games where Cade Klubnik had to use his legs, and those legs won the game in some critical ACC matchups. So with that being said, with Cade Klubnik having that ability, much like Trevor Lawrence did against Ohio State in a big playoff game a few years back, right? Much like Cade Klubnik did in ACC play, if Cade Klubnik can use his legs, I don't know how many of those will be designed runs, but I do think that could be the X factor offensively. I think Clemson's defensive line will be enough, like I said, to give Garrett Nussmeier a little trouble, especially late in the game. And ultimately, I see Clemson getting the win at home. Obviously, if it were in a different spot, if it were out in Baton Rouge, I'd have a lot different concerns. But Clemson getting this game at home is a big, big plus for this team. And I like Clemson by about a touchdown to 10 points on Saturday night. I don't think it will be a blowout either way, but I do see Clemson winning and probably covering the spread in my mind.
Wire to Wire, weekdays 2 to 6 Central Time on the Fan, upstate in South Carolina. He's Cole Bryson. You can check him out on Twitter at @TheColeBryson if you're looking for some Clemson news over the next few days before LSU and Clemson get things rolling on Saturday night. Cole, we really appreciate it. Been a lot of fun. We'll do it again.
Absolutely, man. Thanks, guys.
That is Cole Bryson there in South Carolina. It's our Genesis opening drive. I think that's a great perspective there. I think that he's painted a picture that we have talked about a lot. Clemson's got a really good offensive line, a great wide receiver core, a good quarterback. What do they got at running back? We don't know. Why couldn't they stop the run last year? Was it scheme or personnel? Well, maybe we find out on Saturday. And as he mentioned, too, something we haven't talked about a lot, what does Clemson have in the kicking game? Could be a bit of a question mark there. So appreciate Cole for giving us a little bit of time here on this Wednesday. We're brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools. Come back with What If Wednesday next.
The Hunt Palmer Show. You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show. Brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools.
Wednesday shows brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools. About half that work week in the rearview mirror. Appreciate you hanging out with us. JD PicKell in his weekly slot coming up in 10 minutes. You also got SEC Power Rankings coming back. So now all of our football staples easing back in as it is game week. We are getting close to that weekend. All y'all are fired up, whether you're heading to Clemson, which I know a number of people are, or you're just ready to lock in and watch. We'll get you ready for it right here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. All right, let's do it. It's What If Wednesday.
Time, space, reality. It's more than a linear path. Where a single choice can branch out into infinite realities. Follow me and ponder the question. What if?
Alrighty, first one here. What if Keegan Bradley had chosen to be a playing captain in the Ryder Cup?
I wouldn't have hated it. I think he's playing well. I think he's best served not playing, and I think there are other American golfers that can help. And I think the guys that he picked today make a lot of sense. So I'm not upset about it. I'm surprised by it because I don't think there's anybody on the team who cares more about playing in the Ryder Cup than Keegan Bradley, and he was devastated when he was left off the one 2 years ago. Now he's a captain, which I don't think they should have guys who are still very much in their playing career as captains. It's very easy to find a 53-year-old captain of the Ryder Cup team. But they picked Keegan to be the captain, so he's going to be the captain. So I'm not upset about it, but I'm surprised that he didn't do it.
Yeah, no, this was a mistake from the get-go, choosing him as the captain, because he had been playing pretty good golf at that time, and this all could have been avoided. And even if
if Live Golf didn't exist and Phil was the captain.
Okay, well,
that would avoid it.
There's certainly some other options they could have gone with besides Phil Mickelson.
David Toms.
Yeah, anybody. Who cares?
That's who we could have gone with.
Anyone else besides
PGA champion David
anyone
Toms,
else besides Zach Johnson or Keegan Bradley. Let's avoid that. But Keegan Bradley is one of the 12 best American golfers. He should be playing for the Ryder Cup team. He's been playing great golf this year, and in the last 3 or 4 months, he's been one of the best golfers in the world. So he should be playing, but he's not because he's a captain, and they screwed this up.
You're overstating how well he's played. He's been good. He's not been elite.
Okay, I think he has been in the upper echelon of golfers the last 4 or 5 months in terms of his performance. If you look at strokes gained, all that stuff, he's been really good. But anyways, moving on, next one here. What if Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift break up as the playoffs start? That would be a real problem.
I mean, I don't even know. I just can't deal with the Taylor Swift, Travis Kelce thing. I hope they get married and have kids, and it's great. The deal where we care about the personal lives of celebrities, it's just weird to me. I don't care about any of the Cubs' wives or girlfriends or kids or any of that. It's just not. I just want to go play baseball.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think that's going to happen, but if it did, that would be quite the firestorm on the news circle there for the Chiefs. Travis Kelce, I don't think
you'd have to have a designated camera person that had been focused on Taylor Swift in the suite to now film football.
Yeah, right, exactly. And I don't think that there's any way that Travis Kelce would be seeing a interview podium for the next few months after that, because
he's got a podcast.
Well, that's true. He does have a podcast. He'd probably be absent from those if I had to guess as well.
No, views would skyrocket.
Well, that's true. All right, next one. I saw one here earlier. What if Hunt starts a power ranking giving both Missouri and Vanderbilt some respect?
Let me see if I gave him respect.
I'm going to guess no.
I've got my power rankings right here.
Well, you can't read them right now.
I know. It's not great.
Yeah.
Not great
as
for
expected.
Missouri and Vanderbilt.
That's fine. Vanderbilt is just going to prove you wrong as they did last year, and they're going to do it again this year.
They lost to Georgia State last year.
Okay, they did, but they also beat Alabama, and not to mention, you also had them very lowly ranked in the baseball power rankings, and they also tended to prove you wrong in that regard as well.
I don't know if they did. Lost in their regional, non-competitive.
But
they kind of turned into a pumpkin there.
Okay, they did, but
good run in Hoover, which we overestimate every year.
During the season, they were good, and you had them underranked in your initial power ranking, so you've always undervalued Vanderbilt.
They were about what I thought. Just showed up in the regional.
All right, you did not think they were going to be as good in the SEC as they were. All right, next one. Where is it? What if LSU? No, that's okay. What if LSU jumps out to a 10-point lead, but it's all based on emotion, and they fade in the second half as they did on the last openers?
The whole emotion thing, I
don't know about that.
Everybody's gonna have a lot of emotion. It's the first game. It's top 10 game showdown. One of the cliches that I don't like is the term "came out flat."
Yeah.
That can happen if it's 11 a.m. and you get punched in the mouth by UAB. But sometimes a better team just beats you, and just because you're down 14-0 doesn't mean you came out flat, and just because you get out 14-0 doesn't mean you just played better. I feel like more often than not, every situation's different, but I don't like the emotion thing that we tend to just immediately slam into often.
All right, next one here. What if Hunt got paid $5,000 to go to the Live golf event in New Orleans next year?
No.
How much would they have to pay you to go, Hunt?
We don't need to get into that.
There has to be a number.
$5,000's not going to do it.
There has to be a number. There has to be.
I would go to the Live event.
And okay, here's the stipulation too. You go. You also have to take photos and there has to be. You can't just go and hide. You have to be a noted representative of the media there.
I would go. Oh, I have to be the media?
No. I'm just saying you have to be. You can't just
because I want to go drink a lot of beer.
No, well, no, I don't know. There has to be some stipulations here.
I would go for 10.
Okay, $10,000.
Reluctantly.
Yeah. I mean, I don't see how you can not go for $5,000, son.
Because I despise the concept.
That much that
There's
you will
got
not
to be
take.
some sort of principle.
Someone is
the only
giving
reason
you
I'm going for the 10
$5,000
is because my wife would be ticked if I didn't go.
She would be ticked if you didn't go for 5.
I wouldn't tell her.
Oh, okay. But you would if it was 10.
At a certain point, you got to spill the beans. But she would be ticked.
All
but
right.
I despise the tour. I hate it from the fiber of my being for what it is and what it's trying to be. And I would try to stand as true to my principles as I could. And I hear the people that are driving around going, "Oh, you would go for 10? They went for money." That has nothing to do with it.
No,
it's not a money
different.
thing.
It's different.
It's a split golf in half thing.
Yeah, it is. All right, last one. Where was there? There was one more in here that I
Well, there's 2
liked.
in the dock.
Oh, I didn't see that. All right, let's see. What if this game was in Baton Rouge?
It would be a big deal. I've kind of decided where my pick lay for Friday. I wouldn't say that I'm 100% in, but I've kind of decided. if LSU was playing Clemson in Baton Rouge, I would have no problem picking LSU to win the game.
Yeah.
I don't think that lets the cat out of the bag for my Friday pick. I think it's going to be a close game. But it would swing things in LSU's favor for certain if it was in Baton Rouge. I think that the home crowd would be a big deal in Baton Rouge, and I think it's going to be a big deal on Saturday.
I agree. I mean, it's these two. I think LSU gets a little bit more of a better reputation than Death Valley Clemson does. Memorial Stadium, I should say. But yes, LSU is always considered to be one of the best home field advantages. LSU playing there in the first game against Clemson, I would definitely think.
And Clemson doesn't have Jalen Milroe, which certainly helps.
Yes, that also helps a lot.
God,
they do have
what
K-Club,
a disaster.
That was. All right, last one real quick. What if Alabama loses in Tallahassee?
Speaking of
disasters.
I mean, I got to say, I would have to watch how long is Feinbaum's show?
Oh, yeah.
4 hours?
I did something like that.
I would have to watch the whole thing on Monday.
Yeah, you would.
I'm assuming he'll have his show on Monday, Labor Day, but I would have to watch the whole thing because at that point, the 90% of the fan base in Alabama would give up on DeBoer, which is ridiculous but hilarious, and I would have to get involved in that because, Florida State did go 2-10, and I need to hear Alabama fans after he loses to that team.
Oh, man.
So let's see if that can happen. That would be tremendous. I don't think it's going to happen. No. I haven't seen the number on that. I got to get by the way, my first SEC pick has to be tomorrow because Missouri plays tomorrow.
Man, there you go. The Missouri Tigers. Maybe if they win, they'll move up in the power
rankings.
We'll see.
We'll do the entirety of the picks beyond that on Friday. Auburn's Friday. You got South Carolina Sunday, and I want to say maybe a Monday game. Maybe not. Maybe just Sunday.
See.
I think there's 3 Sundays.
There's Sunday
South
games.
Carolina is certainly
South
Sunday
Carolina
against Virginia Tech.
Yep. And then Notre Dame, Miami also play Sunday.
Okay. That was the ESPN that I was looking at, not the SEC page.
Alabama, 13.5-point favorites.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'll look into that, but that would be quality stuff. That's What If Wednesday here on this Wednesday. Step aside. JD PicKell, 1-3 Sports next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Renaissance Homes and Pools. Labor Day is coming up on Monday. That means we kind of kiss summer goodbye. Now, around here, it's really warm for another 5 or 6 weeks, right? But you're kind of moving beyond summer. School's in, football's here. If you think, man, this was a hot summer, I really wish I would have had a swimming pool for this summer, don't let that happen again. Contact my guy, Joey Blanchard, and the folks at Renaissance Homes and Pools. Let him customize a pool to the exact specifications that you're looking for. Go to Built by Renaissance, see some of the great work he's done for dozens and dozens and dozens around Baton Rouge, and become the next. Call him cell phone, 225-252-7745. Sit down with him. Joey's with you from start to finish. He's the owner of the company. He handles when you go through the design process. He handles the digging and the filling and the finishing of your pool. And depending on weather and the design of your pool, this can be done 6 to 8 weeks. Don't wait. Go ahead and get that pool of your dreams put in the backyard. You want to add an outdoor kitchen to that situation? Joey Blanchard and the team at Renaissance Homes and Pools is happy to do that as well. They're builtbyrenaissance.com. You can call Joey 225-252-7745. Builtbyrenaissance.com.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools.
Talk some Saints in hour number 2. Waiver claim. Saints lost a couple of players, added a couple of players as well. What are they going to do at quarterback? We'll do some of that in the second hour. Also hear from Garrett Nussmeier as he met with the media yesterday. Plus, my SEC Power Rankings coming your way at 2:30. So plenty to do, but it's 1:30. Wednesday. It means it's time to go to our guy, JD PicKell, host of The Hard Count on 3 Sports. Joins us weekly talking about the week to come in college football. It is week 1. Let's do it with JD. How we doing, boss?
Dude, I'm doing better now. It's legitimately week 1. We're all the way here. Yesterday, I'm texting you like, hey, man, are we still good to go for today? Like, are we still doing this? You're like, hey, dude, it's Tuesday. Like, you don't even come on for another 24 hours. So I'm just chomping at the bit to talk ball with Hunt Palmer and the fine people of Baton Rouge. We're here. Thanks for having me on.
I wasn't going to rat you out, but, I'm sitting here talking on the air, and I'm getting texts from JD like, we good for today? And I was like, it's Tuesday, boss. Like, we're still a day out. But he was ready to go, and he's ready to go now. So let's crank it up. I'm going to leave our main course here in Baton Rouge for the end, but let's start where the national eyes will be first thing on Saturday, and that's, of course, Ohio State and Texas. Where is the biggest advantage you see on the field between those two teams?
I think the biggest advantage, it's a great question. I wasn't prepared for that one to be the starter. I think the advantage for me is the Texas trenches and the run game versus what Ohio State's breaking in. And that's not to speak less of what Ohio State has in the front seven. I think that when I break this game down, it's going to take less from Arch Manning to win this game than it would take from Julian Sayin. Like, I think if you told me both quarterbacks had the same stat line, 200 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 pick, I'd say Texas won and covered. With them obviously being a 1.5 dog, they won, and they probably won by a touchdown or maybe a field goal or a close game still either way. But I think that Texas and what they have up front allows them the better opportunity to win ugly.
So this is a big picture question, but let's just toss it out there because I think that Ohio State, Texas, LSU, and Clemson are kind of in the same boat. Conference champions obviously get into the playoff, so we're not talking about that. We're talking about at-large berths here. If we don't have an SMU at 11-1, we don't have an Indiana at 11-1, and you don't have a team that's off the radar like that snags a couple of at-large spots. Do you think teams that lose in week 1 have a chance to get a 9-3 at large?
I don't.
Okay.
I don't. Not unless it's like, because I guess the only teams that could do that would be a Florida or an Oklahoma. And if Oklahoma loses to Illinois State and Florida loses to LIU, we're going to have a very different conversation this time next week about those two teams. So I think that, especially these two teams, if either of them go 9-3, I don't know that there's like 3 good losses on the resume that would get them into the college football playoff over some of those teams that would be more deserving at a 10-2. That's not to speak ill of Texas' schedule. Like, you could tell me you lost to Georgia and A&M. Those wouldn't be like bad losses necessarily, but I don't think it would be enough to where I'm putting Texas in at 9-3 or putting Ohio State in at 9-3 if they got losses to Texas and Michigan and Illinois or whoever it ends up being. So I'll go ahead and say no for right now. I think 9-3 is the firm cutoff unless there's some extenuating circumstances of having the toughest schedule in college football and some close losses.
All right, well, let's talk about the other games around the country in college football. Notre Dame, Miami coming up on Sunday. A couple of teams with a little bit of transition at the quarterback spot. How do you feel about that one?
You know, the quarterback's going to get all the shine, and it makes all the sense in the world storylines for both guys, with Carson Beck transferring over from Georgia and the cars and the social media stuff and DJ Carr winning the job in fall camp. Call me crazy. Checking the weather app. All right, we're checking the weather in Miami on Sunday. Scattered showers. Quick Google search suggests there is not a closable roof at Hard Rock Stadium. I think this might be an offensive line kind of game here. Like, I think for Mario Cristobal especially, you know, check his background with him being from the offensive line and being an offensive line coach and an offensive lineman in his own right. You look at how he's talked about how they build their roster. Like, it feels a lot like Miami wants to be one of those like old SEC teams just from how they talk about themselves and how Cristobal presents. If that's who you want to be, go be it in this game against the national title runner-up, the team that majors in front seven football with Marcus Freeman and company. So I think with it potentially being a little slippery ball situation, a little waterlogged situation like we saw in Ireland with what looked like a heavy football to throw, I think that Carson Beck can't lose the game, but I think it's going to be about the offensive line for both sides. I like Notre Dame in this spot because of that reason. I think they're better on the line of scrimmage. But if you're Miami and you want to prove a point, this is kind of the game to do it.
Let's talk Alabama and Florida State. A disaster for Mike Norvell. Ended up cleaning house on the offensive side. A little bit of trash talk coming from Tallahassee. And then, you got Alabama, who I'm not really sure what to make of. How do you see Saturday?
I think Alabama wins. I think 13.5 is a little bit rich for my blood there, Hunt. Like 2 touchdowns on the road. I understand that Thomas Castellanos has kind of dug himself a bit of a pit here. But if we're going to be honest, I mean, I'm glad you are talking about this. I haven't had a chance to talk about this since, last season. But Thomas Castellanos calling out Alabama, saying Saban can't save them. On one hand, you're kind of like, dude, what are you doing? That's still Alabama. On the other hand, if you're a Florida State fan, you're like, thank goodness somebody's got some pulse. Like, thank goodness we've got some competitive juice after we're going palms up a year ago when we played Memphis and getting embarrassed. Like, I think the the edge for Florida State and how new of a building and roster they are. I mean, 5 new coaches, new coordinators, 45 new players, including the freshmen. Like, I think the pressure actually here kind of lies with Alabama. And I think, Thomas Castellanos and all that is totally a fair storyline. He'll have to back up his smack talk, whatever. But, like, if Florida State gets boat raced, I don't think we think anything all that new of Florida State. Oh, Florida State may not be that good this year. What do you do? If Alabama doesn't look great, if Ty Simpson in a spot in his career he's built to now for his entire time at Alabama, waited 3 years, if Alabama's supposed to return to their standard at Alabama, which is make the playoff and compete for natties, if they don't do it, it's like, okay, hey, this is going to get uncomfortable very, very quickly. So I think the pressure is actually more on Bama in this spot. I like Bama to win, Florida State to cover.
What's your confidence level in Ty Simpson for the year?
Say that one more time. My what win total?
Your confidence level in Ty Simpson for the year.
I thought you said my coddling of Ty Simpson. I was like, man, I can't coddle him. I can't do it. I think my confidence for him overall is more than it was with Jalen Milroe, not because of his ability, even though I think he is a talented cat. Like, you don't get 5 stars next to your name and get to go to Bama if you're not talented. I just think he'll be more consistent. And when Ryan Grubb's calling the plays and Kalen DeBoer is your head coach, just give me something dependable. If I know what I'm getting from you every week, I can game plan. I can't game plan if you're throwing 3 picks against Oklahoma in 1 week and then looking like a freaking Avenger against Georgia the week before. So I think that the consistency and how good they are around him gives me confidence in the offense. I don't think Ty Simpson's going to be a first-team All-SEC cat or just be a Heisman Trophy finalist guy. I think he'll be dependable. I think that's what they need.
All right. Chris Marler, a guy here that runs our social media and works with us here at LouisianaSports.net, tried to sell me yesterday on one game on Saturday that no one's going to be watching. Everyone's going to be watching Ohio State, Texas at 11 o'clock. And Syracuse and Tennessee are going to kick off over in Atlanta. Syracuse had a pretty good year last year. Now they got to make a change at quarterback, obviously. And Tennessee lost a lot. The number's 13.5 there. Any chance Syracuse really upsets the apple cart there in Atlanta against the Vols?
When Fran Brown's your head coach, I think there's always a chance. I don't think it's going to happen. Like, I would be extremely shocked if it were to happen. When I say there's a chance, like, there's also a chance that I walk out into my backyard and get struck by lightning. You know, it's just probably not going to happen. I'm more curious to just see like the overall flavor from Tennessee offensively, because Josh Heupel's kind of been one of those chefs over the course of the last few years where kind of, those reality TV shows. I don't know if you watch those on Netflix. Like they've always got some funny name like Chopped or Super Chef, or they give them like Pop-Tarts and beef liver and say, "Go ahead and make me something with this." Like, this is kind of the most difficult ingredients that I think Josh Heupel's had offensively. Like a quarterback who missed spring practice, 2 true freshman receivers they're going to have to depend on. One of their go-to backs is a former walk-on. They lose a lot on the offensive line. Like, this is kind of Josh Heupel's Pop-Tarts and beef liver where he's got to make it work. And that's the most fascinating part to me. Not so much if they cover, if they beat Syracuse, just what's the overall flavor? Are we winning games in the 20s this year, or do we have a guy at quarterback that we feel real good about and we're throwing it all over the yard? And we at least try to do that here early on against the Syracuse defense that was pretty gettable last year.
From Syracuse and Tennessee to some more orange, that's Clemson, LSU and Clemson, 6:30 on Saturday night. Give me your thoughts.
Well, one, I can't wait for this. This is going to be awesome. I want to preface with, if LSU loses, I'm going to tell you why I think they're going to win. If LSU loses, there is going to be so much room for overreaction, and some of that is fair. Some of that is warranted. It's going to suck. It's going to suck for me as someone who picked them to the national championship. Like, it'll be a tough, cry in the shower kind of night. That's the first part of this. But I would caution the good folks in Baton Rouge and the good folks that watch college football to have the funeral service for the Tigers. This is a team hunt, and I'm curious to hear your take here. I counted 14 players that will be either freshmen or transfers that I expect to have a role in the game against Clemson, which makes me think, even though I think they're going to beat Clemson on Saturday night, they're going to be a better team in the month of October than they are. They're going to be a better team in the month of November when those pieces really start to gel. Now, I think they're going to beat Clemson because I trust Joe Sloan and Garrett Nussmeier to have answers for the Clemson pressure. I think that Clemson having a totally honest box against that LSU run game is not going to be something they can do. And when that happens, I think this plays downfield. I think it is a 31-27 game. I think LSU gets it done. And I like all the chatter around LSU talking about haven't won the opener, haven't done this, Brian Kelly that. I think this is a football team that seems to have its head on straight. I mean, you're closer to it than me, but from everything I gathered and being around them in media days, seems to be able to take that kind of narrative and turn it into ammo. And so for that reason, I think LSU gets it done. They win the opener, and the Tigers win over the other Tigers all Saturday night.
Let's certainly hope so. I can't deal with it anymore. I've done this 5 years in a row losing. If they do it again, I just don't know. It's just getting it to be a tired act around here. They keep putting him on the schedule, so we'll see what LSU can do. He's JD PicKell, host of the Hard Count on 3 Sports. You can find him on On3's YouTube channel here every single Wednesday at 1:30. Thanks, man. Enjoy the football.
We're back. Love you, brother. See you soon.
JD PicKell with On3 Sports. Come back, talk about a really cool story that happened in the NFL yesterday with local ties. Talk about it next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Genesis of Baton Rouge. GenesisofBatonRouge.com is the website of a car on the lot. Is online at GenesisofBatonRouge.com. When I say Genesis of Baton Rouge, think luxury. It is a luxury brand of vehicles. When I say luxury, you probably think about some other brands that have been around a little bit longer, and that's fine. That's natural. They've been around a little bit longer. Put Genesis on your list. Go by and see. The odds are that most of you that are listening to me right now have not been behind the wheel of a Genesis. Change that. Go by and see them, Airline at PQ, or they'll come to you. Valet test drives, very much available. Contact one of their brand ambassadors. They'll drive it right on over. Get you behind the wheel. They'll point out all the features, all the bells and whistles. You will feel the comfort. You will feel the style. And you understand the safety. They're all the vehicles, every one in the line is an IHA top safety pick. All of them. So you know you're in one of the safest cars on the road. It's Genesis of Baton Rouge. Go by and see them, Airline at PQ. Check them out online, GenesisofBatonRouge.com, GenesisofBatonRouge.com.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools.
Wednesday shows brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools. Find them online, builtbyrenaissance.com, builtbyrenaissance.com. Very, very, very cool story coming out in the last 24 hours on cutdown day in the NFL. The guy that's defied odds really his last 8 years in the football world. Josh Williams makes the 53-man roster with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers as an undrafted free agent. Of course, y'all know Josh's story. Had some offers at smaller schools, said, no, I want to play in the SEC. I want to go play at LSU. So came to LSU and was a walk-on, worked his way through and became the leading rusher on the team in 2022 in Brian Kelly's first year at LSU, and then was a big piece to an offense that led the country with the Heisman Trophy winner and 2 first-round receivers, but he was a big piece to the running game on that team. And then this past year was picked to wear number 18 and had a really nice year for LSU and was not drafted. Once again, kind of thought, well, this guy, probably not worth a scholarship the first time around, not worth a draft pick this time around, and he found his way to the field. You're talking about a guy who in the preseason game against the Bills in the finale had 8 carries, 28 yards, had a catch for 13 yards against the Steelers a week earlier. But it's not really just about the way he runs the ball, which he can run the ball. It's about the fact that he pass protects very well. It's about the fact that he can play special teams. It's about the fact that when you bring him into your locker room, that if he is replaced at some point, he's not going to quit. If there's someone who beats him out, he's not going to tuck his tail and run. He's not going to pout. He's not going to sulk. He's just going to work. He's worked to be a scholarship athlete at LSU, to be a leading rusher in the SEC, to be number 18 at one of the most prestigious universities and football programs in the country, and then to make a team in the NFL. Not a practice squad, a 53. It's an incredible story that Josh Williams has carved out. And guys at his position who were undrafted have the shortest of shelf lives in the NFL. An undrafted running back has got to turn heads to make it, because you're talking about 1, undrafted folks have to do that, and 2, running backs feel like a dime a dozen. Feel like you can always go get the next one. So he's going to have to keep working. But if you know anything about Josh Williams, he's going to. And I realize that there's not a lot of Buccaneers fans listening right now, and I realize that the Saints are looking up at the Bucs in the South right now as a team that's won that division. But it's a great story for a young man that continues to write an amazing story in his football life. I shouldn't say it's surprising. It's just kind of what he's done. And it's really, really cool to have watched Josh Williams make it as an undrafted free agent with the Bucs. So awesome stuff for the former LSU Tiger, who will join the Bucs week 1 next week in the National Football League. So that'll wrap up hour number 1 here on this Wednesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. We're brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools. Missed any of the first hour of our show today, catch it on demand. It was a fast-moving hour. We opened the show today, which we don't normally do, but it was the time we could work it in because of obvious obligations. Cole Bryson's got a radio show that starts at 2 o'clock our time. I had What If Wednesday, I had JD PicKell. So I wanted to get to Cole Bryson at the top of the show. We talked Clemson with Cole Bryson, who's with the Fan upstate in Greenville. Talked Cade Klubnik, talked Clemson running game, Clemson defense. Why could they not stop the run with all that NFL talent? Well, we asked Cole that, and he gave us his answer on it, plus some special teams concerns with Clemson. So if you missed that, you can catch it on demand wherever you find your sound. You can certainly search Hunt on LSU and find that there. We had What If Wednesday. You can catch that on demand as well. JD PicKell, host of the Hard Count on 3, was with us right there. Search Hunt Palmer Show wherever you find your sound. Google, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Wherever you find us, you can certainly find Hunt Palmer Show. Just search it and subscribe. All right, Saints veteran quarterback options. Looks like they just settled on a quarterback to bring in. Also some Garrett Nussmeier options when we come back after Sports Center on a Wednesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
One Bath and Closets. OneBathAndClosets.com is the website. David Duvall and his team, 30 years redesigning and remodeling bathrooms and closets. Look, if you're in a house that was built sometime around 2000, whether you helped in building that or you bought a home that was built around 2000, around that 25-year mark, David Duvall and his team find that some issues may arise in the bathroom, whether it's issues with the foundation of the tub, whether it's the shower functionality. If you are in a house like that and you're starting to notice some of those things, don't just call the handyman. Don't try to YouTube it and figure it out. Get a licensed, bonded, and insured company that's been at this for 30 years to come in and help you out. He can handle tub-to-shower conversions, put in a brand new tub. They can deal with sinks and vanities as well. All of it customized to your specs. All of it done right the first time to leave the competition behind. Check out David and his team at OneBathAndClosets.com. It's OneBathAndClosets.com.